Fellow comrades and delegates, fellow members of the Soviet government, and members of the Communist Party and all the Soviet people and the peoples of the world. Comrades, it's been a long time since an address was made by the Soviet leadership. However, today comes this Congress partly to address the sequences of events that have overtaken our union and caused a lot of issues for us. Comrades, with me is the report of the Central Committee and my own findings as well on how the Soviet Union fared since the last Congress, since the last address, and how things have gone. For one thing, and the first and the biggest of these events was events that took place in regards to our foreign policy. Our union has looked back in the years since that our foreign policy was inherently based upon concessions, based upon anti-Leninist theory that been levitating more towards the Khrushchevs of the Khrushchevites and Brezhnevites that drove our union, the first union, to smithereens in 1991. As the Communist Party of China had pointed out already, the Khrushchevites had made a very big mistake, as well as the Brezhnevites, of manipulating peaceful coexistence and using it instead to grant as many concessions as possible to the Yankee imperialists. In this same manner, we see that our Soviet Union has also granted a lot of concessions to foreign powers, to revisionists, to reactionaries. Case in point being the Treaty of Vladivostok, a treaty that we now see instead as the Soviet leadership as one that was signed while of necessity. It leaned a lot towards what this Communist Party of China had warned the communist world about. It is with this that it is this reason and the treason of the people of the quote-unquote People's Republic of China that drove us to break the treaty apart and reclaim what was ours. Reclaim the Tuvan people back into the USSR, as had been and always will be. The Soviet Union had for a long time been in conflict with the Chinese. We decided to make peace, but we made peace on unfounded grounds. Instead, on grounds that were made instead as Khrushchev, so the grounds that were made to criticize and embarrass us in front of the world stage, to rob us of our position, legitimate position, as leader of the world communist movement, and instead hand it over to people who never will ever in any case stand up in their defense. In the hours after that, we took to our arms in our defense. As the Second Great Patriotic War broke out, we mobilized all resources for a good fight with Germany, and immediately embarked on a great purge to execute and shoot all people that would sympathize with the Kaiserite fascists. While at the same time, on the side, the world watched on. The nations that call themselves communist in the world, that defend socialism with everything, when we stood up to defend the ideology and the socialist ideology and the motherland, no one came to our assistance. The world stood and turned their back upon our rightful struggle and forced us to make peace, a white peace, with the authority. it shows very much the opportunism of many of these nations that call themselves communist or socialist and never support the legitimate struggles of the world. May I remind all of you, in the year of 2020, we all unified in struggle against the Kite-Light fascists, against all these imperialists. We united, all of us, on the common cause to destroy them and keep them underneath and under the muzzles of our guns, as they should be. Today, this spirit evaporated. The ideas of nationalism, the ideas of isolation have taken root in a lot of states that call themselves socialists, that have been corrupted by peaceful coexistence, by the peaceful coexistence that went against the peaceful coexistence that Lenin and Stalin had pushed for the Soviet Union, and what Mao had pushed for in the principles of peaceful coexistence of the People's Republic of China, which was part of the policy that led to China's prosperity. As Mao Zedong had done, and Lenin and Stalin, we also seek to criticize our past too. The rest of our past that was allied to the social imperialist, fascist, reactionary, first revisionist, but now religious fundamentalist, and extremely reactionary Islamists and Turkish ultranationalists that sit at the helm of the largest illegitimate Soviet Union. But our alliance with them, whilst also of necessity, grew to be parasitic. Our government was always opposed to the Leonists and was always opposed to their ideas. But we were secret in our opposition, and that was our flaw. Chairman Mao points out that doing this, of having socialism but not spreading it, is a type of liberalism. And this is something we're all guilty of as communists in the discoordination world of the modern world today, of all states. However, unlike all states, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union has chosen to criticize this, and put ourselves on the path to prosperity and towards the ultimate strength in the new Cold War that has arisen between all of our formerly unified states that have turned of which most have turned revisionist and social imperialist. They have turned in a direction that is against the Soviet Union, our Soviet Union, and against the Leninist foreign policy that we have emphasized, and that we emphasized before in years preceding. It is also with this that I also criticize the conduct of the Leonists, our conduct when we were attacking the states, the early states and people that had initially opposed Leonism. And we already made steps to rehabilitate some of these people. Already, as part of the Treaty of Vladivostok, and one of the pieces of the treaty that we choose to keep is our self-criticism of our actions in the invasion of Hungary that supported the social imperialist aims of Lenin. Whilst the Hungarians were attacking us for a good reason, that we had aligned with Leninist social imperialism, albeit even if it was of necessity, it was still wrong. That we have then, as a Communist Party, we really do humbly apologize very much to the Hungarian people, to those that we excised and purged for their just anti-revisionist struggle, for their just cause to fight Leonism. It was with this that we now also take our criticism as part of the people who were part of the group we excised and purged from most places. Those people instead now chose to move over. Some of them chose to move over to China. And the PRC has been growing very much antagonistic to us. Even and are part of the group that refuse to acknowledge that the changing times and the plans that we have developed, that we have already laid bare too much of the world for our economic and for economic, cultural, and prosperity, and for consistent population growth that has already seen us return above 100 members. Even if we but with the issue arising stagnation. Comrades, it is prudent that we seek to criticize all that we develop the idea of self-criticism and criticism, samokritika, that our union we have not seen a lot of in a lot of the quote-unquote socialist states. Self-criticism is important in our ideas as Marxist-Leninists, as Maoists fighting for world revolution. It is prudent that we criticize our past, and prudent that we criticize actions that we have taken as a leadership of the Communist Party, Soviet state, and the people. And it is the same for all communists around the world. Comrades, and it is to avoid any of these things happening ever again. The Central Committee of the Communist Party has unveiled a massive plan, and mainly enshrined in terms of foreign policy, to improve our standing and to encourage the Leninist peaceful coexistence that Chairman Mao had pushed in his work. Comrades, our union has, we have pushed already through the Soviet foreign policy. We have already begun to see large successes in our plan to open ourselves up further to the world with a new Leninist foreign policy, a new outlook that will avoid the confrontations of the past and seek to build a peaceful framework of cooperation with all states of the world, provided that they also collaborate, that they also keep in respectful terms with the Soviet Union. Indeed, the USSR has been aggressive, it is through these foreign policy failures that the USSR has seen a lot of disaster, embarrassment, and degradation of our international standing. The international standing of the USSR at the moment is not in a good position, but with a new foreign policy, we will improve ourselves. And we ask all the Soviet people to support the Leninist foreign policy of this Communist Party, which shall be intensified and already is seeing greater success. Is already beginning to see successes. As 2 days ago, the Republic of France, the Federal Republic of France, and our union have agreed to a mutual recognition treaty. And we're seeing offers arise from other states who wish to establish peaceful coexistence with our union, provided that they aren't aggressive. Indeed, comrades, we have seen that the current foreign policy is causing success, and we shall continue following through with our course. And we disavow anything that embarrassed us, the treaties and obligations that embarrassed us, and our past dealings with the imperialists. And indeed, we have worked a lot to rectify the mistakes, and we shall continue rectifying these mistakes. And as part of the rectification of our mistakes in domestic policy, our Communist Party shall very soon launch a lot of programs, including a Great Leap Forward and a new constitution, to revitalize the Soviet economy, our population growth and activity, and ultimately continue constructing a new superpower out of our country. That we shall continue with the construction of socialism, as we have already shown and will continue doing. And we shall work to revitalize and revive our plans for Soviet prosperity. And more will come for further revitalization of the Soviet armed forces, the Soviet Red Army, and which already has gone through some reform and will continue, as well as the Committee of State Security Forces and other forces that are for the defense of our union. There shall be further revitalization of the Communist Party as well, and further emphasis of the people's role, and led by some of our comrades in the Central Committee, the push to further democratize the union and open up our union to more democratic practices, in aligning with the Soviet policy of Zhdanovshchina, pushed by Comrade Andrei Zhdanov, and Stalin's closest confidant in the post-war years, all the way to his death in 1948, murdered by the revisionists. We shall be following, especially with Zhdanovshchina, in all our policies, to do with the Soviet Union, to push for further democratization, for further larger cultural revolution and colonization, and for further pushing of an advancement of the Soviet position internally. And in all this, we are reminding the world that while the Soviet Union does not interfere in internal affairs of other states, and does not condone the actions of imperialists and social imperialists or base imperialist kind, or bourgeois imperialist kind, or the revisionists or capitalists. While we don't condone their actions, we have the strength to stand for our legitimate interests, and will always stand for our interests, and never be enslaved by any power. The USSR is an independent nation, and shall not be a colony for any social imperialists or revisionists. We are not a colony of any country. We are an independent nation and a proud people. Our policies and reforms shall emphasize further and further the Soviet Union's position in being a strong superpower. This further emphasize our position of strength across the world. And in order to achieve a strong superiority in this Cold War between superpowers and nations. And all of this is in accordance with the policies set forth by the great six heads of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, and in accordance with what would be wanted of our great comrade Jose Maria Sison, who passed away earlier today. Indeed, following in his path and the path of the great Stalin, whose birthday will come in a few days from now, we follow through with their ideals, stand for what they believed in, stand for what they made, great ideologies that have led to victory. Joseph Stalin brought the Soviet Union to a superpower, of which I, as his namesake, will recreate, even by my own hand if that must be, and ended up defeating and built up an army that defeated fascism and liberated the workers of Eurasia from fascist tyranny, and brought the ideals of socialism to Eastern and Central Europe and the Far East. And further Jose Maria Sison, who passed away today, whom led the Filipino People's Revolution. May he rest in eternal power. May his ideals spread forth in the Philippines to win great victories in the People's War of the Filipino people against the fascist neo-Marcos dictatorship of the current Philippines, to liberate their country from US and Chinese imperialists, and to build socialism in their country, to be a new cornerstone, to be a fortress of world socialism, the fortress of world socialism, which does not exist in any country and in any form in the modern day. No country is socialist. But with the people's will and the people's war raging around the world, there will be in our lifetime. The Philippines will be free in our lifetime. The union, the struggle inspires us, and our union will be free as well. Free, strong, and once again leading the world, strongly leading as the vanguard of world communism. A position that we became and strive to be. Eternal glory and honor to Chairman and leader Jose Maria Sison. Eternal glory to Joseph Stalin. Long live their legacies. Long live the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Long live our struggle. Long live our struggle for world socialism. And eternal glory to the fighters fighting for people's democracy and world peace in people's wars around the world. For socialism, for the USSR, za SSSR, za socjalizmem, za pobiedą.